Okay, guys. I was asked about this story yesterday, so I figured while I'm sitting here, I might as well look into it. This is about a woman, the body that they found butchered in the park. Says police hunt for killer who butchered Brooklyn woman as family and neighbors tried to make sense of her death. Nicole Odom struggled to wrap her head around the horror. Her middle child, so joyous and sweet, slain and butchered by a madman who dumped the body parts in Brooklyn Park. I wouldn't wish this tragedy on my worst enemy, Odom said, on the morning after learning her daughter Brandy's gruesome death. A manhunt continued Wednesday for the savage killer of Brandy Odom, 26 years old, whose remains were identified only after her sister spied the telltale tattooed chocolate inked on the victim's left breast. Life does not promise tomorrow, the mother said, growing teary-eyed. You've got to love for today. Everybody is not in the right state of mind that is walking around New York City, or anywhere for that matter, people. Cops believe the killing took place outside Canarsie Park, and Brandy's dismembered remains were left there only a short time before the body parts were discovered, strewn across its 132 acres. I do not know of her having any enemies, said Nicole Odom, standing at her sheepshead bay door. I don't know who could have possibly wanted to do this. Brandy was a joyful child. She liked to cook, she liked to draw, she liked to do hair. She was a bright young lady, so I don't know why anyone would want to do this to her. The victim's naked torso and head were discovered Monday evening by a dog walker in the sprawling park, with her severed arms, legs, and other body parts wrapped in plastic bags and left elsewhere. Detectives trying to retrace her activities in the hours before she was carved up reviewed surveillance video from around the park in hopes of spotting a suspect. I want them caught, said Nicole Odom, her voice calm despite the crushing news. I need them caught for my satisfaction and so my daughter can rest in peace. The city's medical examiner did not determine a cause of death Wednesday, although police sources indicate Odom was possibly strangled before the fugitive killer hacked up the corpse. Police found a knife in a trash can 50 yards from where the torso was found, but it was unclear whether it was related to the crime. Brandy Odom lived with her aunt at the Bayview houses in Canarsie, Brooklyn. Give me 1 second. About 15 blocks from the trees where her head and torso turned up. The body was partially covered in leaves, cops said. Family members hoped for the best but feared for the worst when police at the 16th precinct put out a word about the tattoo. Brandy was a sweet girl, says Terrell Hunter, 33, who lived in the same building as Odom. I just had tears in my eyes when I heard. It's crazy. I can't believe what they did to that girl. He recalled Brandy as a hard worker who appeared in a security uniform and rejected his romantic overtures. She was always telling me she had a boyfriend. Odom's Facebook page listed her as single, and her mother didn't know of any boyfriend. The victim's face was swollen and bruised, with her arms severed at the elbows. Her legs were hacked just below her buttocks, and as sources say. Oh my God, my heart just stopped, said Anna, 62, a former Flatbush neighbor of the victim. My heart just stopped. She was nice. She used to call me Mama Anna. A vigil for Odom is expected to take place at the park Thursday evening. Some wicked people did something to that girl, said Anna. This is very sad. I have goosebumps. I feel so sad to hear it. I can't believe it. The victim was the middle of three sisters, a high school graduate, and a hairdresser who never caused any problems at home, according to her mother. The sweetest girl, the mother said, I want the public to know that she was somebody's child. She has people that love her and care about her. She wasn't a runaway kid. She wasn't a bad kid, and I really want the public to know that. Odom had no major history of problems with the law, although police reported one arrest for loitering with suspicions of prostitution in 2012. Her mother was adamant that her daughter wasn't involved in any illegal activity, which any mother would. Many in the Brooklyn neighborhood shared Nicole Odom's disbelief at the gruesome killing of the local woman. Brandy is a very, very intelligent, educated woman, said the community advocate Tony Herbert, who offered support to the Odom family. Everyone is bewildered with what has taken place, and they hope that whoever is responsible is brought to justice. Nicole Odom left to plan a funeral for her daughter, tried in vain to make sense of what happened. I just wish I had her here with me. A parent is not supposed to bury their child. She had a whole life ahead of her. Words can't even begin to describe how I feel. She's in my heart. She was my child. Okay? That's the basic story about this. I'm looking now to see if there's any updates or anything. Here it says, the description on the television news reports were vague except for one detail. The woman who was dismembered had a tattoo of the word chocolate on her left breast. When the woman's grandmother heard that Tuesday, she told her daughter, Nicole Odom, who looked up who was investigating that case and went to the 69th Precinct Station House so I can find out if this is my child. She brought a picture of her daughter. Detectives showed her a picture of the body they found in the park. The arms and legs had been cut off, and they were found later in plastic bags nearby. Unbelievable, man. It was my kid. It was my chocolate, Miss Odom said. The killing has deeply unsettled people living near the park, as it would unsettle anyone. A stretch of woods and playground bordering Jamaica Bay, and set questions swirling around what happened. Investigators determined Brandy Odom's limbs were cut off after she had been killed. A city official said, but the medical examiner has not said how she was killed, and the police have not yet made any arrests. On Wednesday, investigators in white protective coveralls sifted through the garbage can within a perimeter of the yellow tape strung from trees in the different parts of the Canarsie Park. On the grass below them stood yellow evidence markers. Which, might I just add, were never shown in Lisandro Guzman's case. No markers, no crime scene photos, etc. A woman walking her dog on Monday had noticed the head and torso face down on the partly covered in leaves. On Tuesday, half a mile away in the same park, investigators found a plastic bag with other body parts. Investigators from the medical examiner's office were expected to do a skeletal examination, and police investigators were combing the area for a video trying to trace Miss Odom's whereabouts before her death. Raised in Crown Heights, Miss Odom was a former security guard who was trained in cosmetology after high school and recently passed the exam to become a city safety agent, her mother said. Nicole Odom got a letter from the city in March telling Brandy to come in for an interview for the school safety job, and she called her daughter with the good news. It was the last time they spoke. Miss Odom was living in Queens. Her mother said she often visited her aunt and cousins in the apartment in the Bayview houses in Brooklyn, less than a mile from where her body was found. She stopped by on the weekends, talking, laughing, listening to her music, and cooking West Indian food with her two cousins, said Madonna Alford, 41, a neighbor. Miss Alfred said Miss Odom sometimes wore scrubs for a job as a home health aide and talked of rising higher, she said. She wanted to become a flight attendant and get her own apartment. She had ambitions. She had a game plan. She wanted to work and take care of herself. Pretty girl. She had the biggest smile ever, Miss Alfred said. She was a sweetheart. Neighbors there said they had not seen her for months. Her mother remembered her as her own kind of independent woman who moved out at 18 years old and started chasing various job training certificates. She liked to be her own boss, Nicole Odom said. She said she was eager for the police to tell her how her daughter was killed and to arrest her killer. Nobody should have to go through such a tragedy as I'm going through now because you know she was a bright kid. I just want to get down to the bottom of it and I want justice done. I'm not quite sure how they didn't do how the medical examiner hasn't put out any information unless they didn't do the autopsy yet. I'm a little confused about that. I don't get why that wouldn't be something that they would have done ASAP and whatever. Here's some more information. Sources: NYPD questioning roommates in gruesome murder. Okay, so the plot thickens. CBS 2 has learned that 2 roommates were being questioned Sunday night in the murder of the dismembered of a 26-year-old woman. Her remains were found scattered in Brooklyn Park a few weeks ago. Sources told Rena Roy that woman identified as Brandy Odom shared a home with those 2 roommates in Queens. They appeared on the NYPD's radar after cadaver dogs picked up a dead woman's scent in one of their cars. Police were standing guard outside a home in Rosedale section of Queens where sources confirm Odom lived with a woman and a man, Roy reported. When I woke up this morning, I saw the police tape and I was like, what happened? It's a really quiet neighborhood. The fact that you see 4 squad cars parked up in your neighborhood, it's alarming. You would never think a neighborhood like this would have this type of violence. Investigators were zeroing in on the 148th Road resident about 3 weeks after police said that the body parts were found. Investigators later discovered Odom's dismembered arm and legs. Her face was bruised and swollen. One neighbor who didn't want to show her face told CBS 2 Roy in Spanish she often heard a man screaming coming from next door. Police have not confirmed any prior incidents at the location, but the neighbor said she had seen cops there before. She then recently noticed Odom wasn't around anymore. Odom's heartbroken family members said their final goodbyes just a few days ago, crying for a life taken too soon. My mother was a loving child. She was sweet. My daughter was a loving child. She was sweet and she didn't have any enemies that I know of. Brandy was a smart, educated, sparky, ambitious young lady. What happened to her was very terrible, according to one of her friends. Sources told Roy the roommates have not been charged, but police were not immediately releasing them. Okay. So the plot thickens. Oh boy. Let's see. Now this happened back in April. And that's interesting how where people are just talking about that shit now. I'm confused. I'm still looking for an update. from what I see so far, those roommates were questioned. They're saying if she was a white girl, the case would move faster. You found a whole dismembered body in the park, and it's the media who are coming to my door, but the police department isn't telling me anything. I'm still looking for this. Minister Muhammad, who is Minister Louis Farrakhan's East Coast Regional Representative, is head of all Nation of Islam mosques on the East Coast. I guess he's involved, trying to help. The NOI became involved after it became known that Nicole Odom, the mother of Brandy, felt like they were not getting the support that they needed. She said she was not hearing from the law enforcement about movements that were being made. Muhammad added, Brandy was murdered somewhere. According to law enforcement, she was dismembered and brought to the park. This was a heinous, gruesome crime. There are suspects, but Miss Odom has found this out from news media calling her, not from law enforcement. So they have had a suspect in custody and let them go. They are looking at a female roommate and another male suspect, and I think they have subpoenaed phone records. So they're going through that. Muhammad continued, when this young girl was found, they knew what was going on. We expected them to search out and find what happened to Brandy. I think class and color is an issue, which they often do. Understanding all the other issues, but this is an intelligent and sophisticated law enforcement, so they can do much better. The mother said, I do appreciate any help that's been given, but I really don't think that they are communicating with me enough. Anything I'm learning about my daughter's murder, I'm hearing from reports and reports from the media. I have only been given the name of Detective Loretto, but I can never get a hold of him. They are not even calling me to tell me how the case is going or checking up on us. Am I surprised? No. The fact that New York City and Brooklyn have a lot of murder cases on their hands, and they're not always readily accessible to. You'll call them and leave messages, and they call you back when they fucking feel like it. Here is the cause of death. Okay, this was the cause of death, so we're going to read this now and see about that. The woman whose dismembered remains were found in Brooklyn Park in April died by homicidal asphyxiation. According to the city's medical examiner, Brandy Odom, 26, was found in Canarsie on April 13th. Her torso was found, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go through that. Police sources reportedly believe Odom was killed and dismembered elsewhere. I would assume so. Death by asphyxiation can occur several ways, including strangulation or suffocation. Nicole Odom told the New York Times that her daughter was living in Queens but would also visit family who lived near the park. She said her daughter liked to be on her own, etc., etc. And that is all we have here. So she died from either strangulation or being suffocated. I'm looking to see if there's anything else. Any more updates here? Let's see. Homicide ruling in Canarsie. Dismemberment highlights lack of information, to say the least. So here we are. This is back in April. I'm looking to see if there has been any arrests or if there's any kind of new information. The roommate and her roommate's boyfriend were hauled in for questioning in April, leading to speculation as to why. NYPD cadaver dogs had picked up on Odom's scent in one of their cars. Shouldn't that be enough to hold them? While other sources told the Post that there was surveillance video of the roommate's boyfriend loading something suspicious into his trunk. Have they even looked into that? Whatever the reason or suspicion police had, both of the suspects were released after questioning and no arrests were made. So, I guess, the cadaver dog and the surveillance video wasn't a good enough reason for an arrest. Cadaver dogs are, to me, probably the most on point, and that would have been enough for me as if I was a prosecutor or a district attorney. I would have arrested them just on that alone. Dogs don't mix up scents, and they know, okay, when a dead body, and if the dead body is that specific person's, they know it's there. That would have been more than enough evidence for me. These motherfuckers would have been arrested in jail, and I would have been trying their asses for murder. But that's me. It seems like, the NYPD drops the ball on shit that they feel like dropping the ball on, whereas in Lissandro's case, they're finding suspects out of the clear blue fucking sky to arrest, that we haven't seen any evidence whatsoever, that these people were involved. We're just told. So, basically, another case of the NYPD not doing shit. And, it's sad. It really is. And it's sad that there's no update. There's no, if this is an active investigation, there's absolutely no updates, about what's happened from April till now. Maybe bringing some awareness to this will help. Please share and like this video. Of course, if you have any information about this case or any other cases, you can call the NYPD Crime Stoppers number, which is readily available. So, I mean, that's where I'm going to leave this. I will keep checking up on this to see if there's any updates. And if there is, I will make a part 2 of this. I hope she rests in peace and her family find some peace in this, and justice is served, because somebody like that on the loose is definitely not somebody that they want roaming the streets. So let's try to get this person caught and get them off the street before this happens again. Thank you guys for listening. Okay, guys, I was asked about this story yesterday, so I figured while I'm sitting here, I might as well look into it. This is about a woman, the body that they found butchered in the park. Says police hunt for killer who butchered Brooklyn woman as family and neighbors tried to make sense of her death. Nicole Odom struggled to wrap her head around the horror. Her middle child, so joyous and sweet, slain and butchered by a madman who dumped the body parts in Brooklyn Park. I wouldn't wish this tragedy on my worst enemy, Odom said, on the morning after learning her daughter Brandy's gruesome death. A manhunt continued Wednesday for the savage killer of Brandy Odom, 26 years old, whose remains were identified only after her sister spied the telltale tattooed chocolate inked on the victim's left breast. Life does not promise tomorrow, the mother said, growing teary-eyed. You've got to love for today. Everybody is not in the right state of mind that is walking around New York City, or anywhere for that matter, people. Cops believe the killing took place outside Canarsie Park, and Brandy's dismembered remains were left there only a short time before the body parts were discovered, strewn across its 132 acres. I do not know of her having any enemies, said Nicole Odom, standing at her sheepshead bay door. I don't know who could have possibly wanted to do this. Brandy was a joyful child. She liked to cook, she liked to draw, she liked to do hair. She was a bright young lady, so I don't know why anyone would want to do this to her. The victim's naked torso and head were discovered Monday evening by a dog walker in the sprawling park, with her severed arms, legs, and other body parts wrapped in plastic bags and left elsewhere. Detectives trying to retrace her activities in the hours before she was carved up reviewed surveillance video from around the park in hopes of spotting a suspect. I want them caught, said Nicole Odom, her voice calm despite the crushing news. I need them caught for my satisfaction and so my daughter can rest in peace. The city's medical examiner did not determine a cause of death Wednesday, although police sources indicate Odom was possibly strangled before the fugitive killer hacked up the corpse. Police found a knife in a trash can 50 yards from where the torso was found, but it